Serious warning. Somebody may find the following material to be disturbing or not, whatever. Do not eat or drink during the duration of this video or suffer the consequences. Your discretion is advised. Okay? On LiveJournal, September 24, 2005, 9:53 p.m., the user, Shiryoji, experienced something a little bit different. I thought I knew insanity. I didn't know insanity. Mood nauseated. There's a story to be told here. Static and I are talking about it because the S story is eating up a lot of our mind space right now. Rather than getting right into this whole thing, I would like to begin by giving a brief setup. Jason, be stupid. Derek. Static. Now, many of you have heard of Shay. She's the villain of this story. Okay, the very brief version, which I'm thinking of expressing as a full novel. She and I were friends since we both got online. About 8 years ago, she and I talked exclusively online until I got a cell phone, whereupon we started talking on the phone, at least once a week. She would often have her son chat with me online as we spoke. She was very active in the gay parenting groups online, and were prolific in raising her son and her interactions with the world as a lesbian. According to Shay, she got kicked out of her evil grandma's house once she finished paying off the mortgage. She bounced from place to place, even checking herself into a rehab so she would have a place to stay. Though she did not have a drug addiction. She lived with friends for a long period of time, 1 year for one and 2 years with another. Her son was with her when she did. She recently moved back in with her dad like 6 or 7 months ago. He got in trouble with his landlords, however, and she needed to go somewhere. She asked if she could come here and crash with me, get a job and a place of her own. I said, yeah, I knew her, right? She crashed here and smelled up the place with her hormonal imbalance, which would mean she had a bump full of that couldn't be white, though it didn't smell like poo, more like dirt and rotting vegetables. After getting me in trouble with my landlord, I found accommodations for her with a friend who was looking for a roommate. She was to have a job with which to pay rent by the end of the month, but he gave her a 3 months rent. Fast forward 2 weeks, she's getting kicked out of Static's house for being hell on fat legs and sticking up his apartment and making a spectacle of herself in the main areas of the complex. She goes, or they both go. So he was getting rid of her. This was the last straw. She emailed me telling me that she was going to do what she had to do. And then I got an email from her son telling me that she was going to hurt herself, so I called 911. Meanwhile, she has downed a bottle of valerian root. They arrested her. I called her dad. Daddy, who actually turns out to be stepdaddy, says she has no son. I started doing research. None of the friends she stayed with know what I'm talking about. They've never met her son, though they've heard of him loads. As well as I did, they have chatted with him online. They have all sent her money to feed him and herself. Then we go to help Static clean up his apartment. And the rest is history. Granting me maybe a week of internet stardom, which is pretty funny. So yeah, most of you know that I found out about her son. The son that I've heard about for the past 8 years, the son I've chatted with for the past 8 years, does not exist. I've spoken to some of her other friends, and yeah, it's true, there's no Shane. Okay, well, there was a Shane, but he died when he was a baby because he was born too small or something. So we're dealing with the girl who took out the fun of dysfunction. I'm sure you know from reading my previous post that she tried killing herself yesterday, and I called the police because, well, yeah, I sort of had to and all. However, I'm sure that some of you would like to know what she was. When the police came and took her, I'm sure that some of you would also like to know what sort of. To learn more about this herb, lift, whole herb, nature's resource, herbal supplement, valerian, for relief of occasional sleeplessness, 400 milligram active, 100 capsules. Really powerful stuff, huh? I was not prepared for the mess at Static's place, though. I knew there would be smell. I knew there would be some mess. Static told me a few days ago that there was poop on the edge of her bed. I thought it was actually the chocolate pudding that I gave her. No, it was poo. Of course, none of us knew what was in store for us. I'll take you through the story as well as I possibly can. However, none of this is pleasant, and some of these pics, well, you need to be very strong of constitution to look at them. I also want to stress that these pics were taken mainly so I could bring them to the staff of whatever medical facility she would get submitted to and show them just how bad the situation truly is. I'm also posting them here because I need to vent. To start, I should say that all three of us went to the emergency room yesterday to see her. She had Static's keys, so it was pretty much something that he could not avoid. And I wanted to go see her and all. I had no idea what I wanted to say, but I figured that everything would work itself out as the night progressed. Well, yeah, sure. We go there, visit. She seems to think it's a normal thing to tell Static that she wanted to come home and find her dead body. She was eating her second meal when we were there as well. There was a lot that was just plain odd. I don't remember all of it, but a lot had to do with the fact that she wanted to die and she had downed a whole bunch of sleeping pills. As you saw from the pic above, what she OD'd on was actually valerian root, which does nothing if you take too much of it because it's just a stupid herbal remedy. I'm not going to go too much into the visit in the hospital, but I called her on the Shane thing. And she insists that her stepdad is her real dad and that Shane exists. I baited her a little bit though, and I asked her how long Shane lived with Connie for. As I asked Connie if she has ever met Shane before, well, I knew that Connie never met him. Shay told me that Shane lived with Connie for 2 years, and with Beth for a year. One of the things that stood out, however, is that S came right out and said to Static, "The one thing that I ask is that you let me pack my own stuff. I wouldn't be here forever." Something was up. You could tell. I wish we even had a clue of how much bad was in store for us. The three of us leave confused and head back to Static's house. Well, we looked around and I put a glove on. Static often changed the color of his hair, so he has a box of vinyl gloves. And I picked up her pants. Big mistake. Because there was something, presumably blood, all over them. Jason equals grossed out at this point. I stopped looking through those. Of course, there was a smell permeating the front room coming from the bed. There was some brown stuff in the electrical blanket. And well, we were morbidly curious, so I picked up the blanket. Bad mistake. There was a ton of brown stuff. We assumed it was blood. We were disgusted. Sailors in general aren't so good at dealing with women's blood. Menses. The Crimson Tide, whatever you want to call it. I do a lot better than most. 'Cause you people know I live for my girls. All my hags out there. We covered the mess back up with a blanket and did the gross out dance for a while. I noticed my duffel bag, and the fact it was full perplexed me. After all, her things were stirred around the room. What little she had. So what did I do? I opened it. The contents? Trash, food wrappings, almost empty pudding cups, fruit flies, and damn, a smell that could kill a cow. Sipping that bag back up, the curiosity was too great for me and Static. So we opened the other bag, thinking that we would find her pictures in there since we were curious who the pics that she claimed to be Shane actually are. Well, we found something much worse. Something that made my gorge rise quite literally. There were 2-liter soda bottles in the bag, both of them full of urine. The one in the Pepsi bottle had fermentation/sediment in it. I ran to the edge of the balcony and dry heaved. Those who know me well know that me dry heaving at something disgusting doesn't happen often. There was green pee bottle though, and well, ew. We did venture into the last bag. And we found the pics that were supposed to be of a son. I didn't even know why I wanted to see them so badly. Because it's not like we were about to be able to look at the pics and have divine inspiration hit us. Allowing us to figure out who the kid really was, we stared at them in shocked silence before continuing. We had to leave, so Static came here for the night. There was no way I could, in all of good conscience, make him stay there. Hell, we were talking about biohazard at this point. He stayed here. And we all got a little liquored up. I think all of you can see that we were justified in this though. And that this is a situation that alcohol is needed. Most likely much more than we drank. Derek and Static hit the tequila. I was all about the brandy. This morning we woke up late and I made waffles, eggs, and sausage. Static and I ran to Big Lots in Target, where he bought a load of cleaning supplies. Then the three of us went back to his house and the real grossness began. We had to throw out the bed. Then we took the electrical blanket off the bed. Well, that was gross enough, however. That was far from the extent of it. I then pulled back the top sheet. Let me point out, as you will see in one of these pics, we were wearing latex dishwashing gloves due to the severity of the disgustipation. Not one of us would have touched a thing without them. Anyway, when I pulled the top sheet back, that was drive heave of the day number one. The sheets were stuck together, sandwiching diarrhea between them. We all realized that this meant she had shat herself, and rather than getting up and fixing the situation, she merely put the top sheet back on top of it and went back to bed. She must have been sleeping in this for days due to the look of it. The has dripped down the side of the sheets and hit the floor. That's what we had assumed was chocolate pudding, since she had been eating that before. However, things made much more sense when the sheets were pulled back. Every pair of her pants was stained. One of them was glued to itself and emitted a little cloud of dust when it was pulled apart. In the pics, this is the dark green pair. Remember, these were taken while cleaning the place. I feel very lucky that this was not my place, but also irate that she did this at a friend's place. My relief takes over though, and frees me from feeling guilt as Static took her in as a favor to me and Derek. Scroll past these pics if you think they may make you ill. The mess was slightly visible, even from the outside. The bed as seen when you walk in the front door looks fairly innocuous. Yes, messy, but innocuous. Pile of dirty laundry since it goes in the middle of the living room. Blood? Poo scrappings, chocolate pudding, dried mud. Yeah, it was poo. WTF is one of my face cloths doing here? Another shot of the same. One of the causes of my dry heaving. I haven't even noticed that this was only the top sheet at this point. More of a bed shot to illustrate the disgustingness. Say goodbye to the blanket I loaned her. One side of the blanket that she's been using. The other. Oh, I pulled the top sheet back. Yeah, the poo ran down the bed. That clinches it. The bed is getting thrown out. Sayonara, sucker. Think that's bad. Pulled apart. Racing stripes. In real life speedrunner. I told you about this one. Watch out. Here's the nasty. Does it ever end? Closer. Ah, too close, too gross. One of these is mine. The others were Dad's. They were both in the trash. It's all wrong. All the same pair. Did it run down her leg? What happened? With the toilet looking this bad, how can her pants and bed be like that? The bag I loaned her looks completely innocuous. Yes? Trash. Oh god, no. Poop in my bag. My bag. Look for the maggots. There were plenty. Her 2 bottles of urine. The Pepsi bottle is especially gross. Ugh. If you made it this far, well, congratulations, I'm still nauseated. There's much more, but I have to stop talking about it. Derek and I have an appointment with some alcohol. Yeah, tonight too. And no, these pics are the ones I took, so copyright me or whatever. Edit. Oh my god, it gets even worse. Static messaged me with, I need to see her again. He didn't tell me why, but he emailed me with a link to his photo bucket account. The couch cushion was turned upside down to hide a large streak. Like, huge. It never ends. There's apparently poo all over the floor too. In the kitchen. Ugh. Static asked that I put up a link to his PayPal for those of you who want to help him out, pay for a professional cleaner to come in and blast the hell out of the apartment. Any takers? 63 pages of comments. Most of them are people just saying, "Oh, it's so gross, the burning for fire, nuke it." OP gets called a homosexual. Some things never change. Somebody's hustling trying to sell 2 couches for $100 each. August 11th, 2006. 9:30 a.m. So it ends. Or does it? Mood. Totally weirded out. Okay, a lot of you added me to read The Furthest Adventures of Shay, the monster that clocked over 2,000 comments. Well, the story, I think, came to a close today. I was called at 7:24 a.m. from Chandler Hospital. And well, she was found dead this morning before the 7 a.m. shift. She wasn't breathing, and she had pilfered food wrappings around her. They tried to resuscitate her, but it didn't work. And they think at this point that she went into diabetic shock, so she ate herself to death. I know it's weird, but it's fitting, really. The hospital called me because she never changed my name from the next of kin list, even though she found a blog entry and decided that she hates me or something. That's okay. They called me and gave me 5 numbers to use to get in touch with her family. I tried. 3 didn't work. 1 rings and rings, and the other has a machine. I should leave a message on that. But how do you tell someone, "Hi, remember your 480-pound stepdaughter? She ate herself to death." Blah. Ah well, I'm sure there'll be more story. I want to talk to her family still. We'll see what happens. I will keep this journal updated with what I learn. August 12, 2006, 11 a.m. What a day. What a day. Mood. Still weirded out. So I went to the home yesterday after many phone calls were made to bring everybody up to speed. The hospital gave me a few phone numbers, 5 to be exact. Only 2 of the 5 are still in working use. Of the 2, 1 rings and rings and rings, and it's supposed to be her grandmother. The other one rings for about 5 times and then goes to a machine, where I left a message, as did the people at the hospital and the woman, Lisa, who works at the county morgue. Let me share with you that Lisa at the morgue is a complete doll. I really appreciate that she was there. She was ironically so much kinder than the nurses at the home. Of course, I do understand why the women at the home were so upset. I'll get to that later. One of the calls I got from the home was Miriam asking me to go and pick up Shay's things, so we packed up and headed up there. It was actually scary how close Shay was to me the whole time. Less than a 10-minute drive, actually. Anyway, we went to the home, and when I told them why I was there, everyone shunned me to the place where she was, and well, it was really surreal. I know that convalescent homes are not nice places, and that they are really sad. But these elderly people shuffling about asking me if I can change their light bulbs. This happened twice from 2 different people. I don't see how they thought I was a nurse. In my jeans, flip-flops, and tight-fitting Superman t-shirt, I felt as though as I've entered the Twilight Zone. Several of the elderly women in the halls were agitated. They were yelling about wanting to get their hair done and that their appointments were canceled. I had to explain who I was and why I was there over and over. And finally, the nurses found Miriam, as yet another nurse was yelling at me because Shay has been there dead at this point for 14 hours. They were telling me that they had bags of ice on her, which I later found out was a bad thing, because I guess part of bloating is absorbing moisture from the room. The condensation from the ice on her body just made that easier, from what Lisa explained to me. Anyway, the nurses told me about what was the last 8 months were like, and it's shocking to me. She did not shower once while she was there, though she would wash herself with a cloth and plain water if she was pushed to. And her roommates complained about her all the time. She was mean to all of the nurses and just wanted to be left alone, even though it is their job not to leave her alone. While they didn't tell her about it, she stole from a lot of people while she was there. There were many VHS tapes all over her room, whole drawers full, and I just left those behind and told the nurses to bring them back to activities. She even stole the television set from Inzino Tanzana Hospital. Somehow. I also left that with the home, as I didn't want the responsibility of bringing it back to the other hospital, and this way the old people can still use it. Her room was a fetid swamp at best upon my arrival. There were brown stains all around where the bed was, and this was explained to me. While I said it in my previous post, she refused to get out of bed at all for the last week. She urinated in one of the hospital's juice/water pitchers, trying to save it. The nurses kept dumping it, but they were pissed that she was going in something that was supposed to serve beverages in. It's typical though. When you think about it, as it was, she was urinating into plastic cups of mine and dumping it into Pepsi bottles. After all, remember that was thrown away. And even looking at the 3 remaining ones makes me gag from time to time. She sat in her own excrement for the past 6 days. When the nurses would try to clean her, she would go crazy and try to clog them with her meaty appendages. That's a direct quote from a nurse. Pools of water also covered the floor as the ice bags would melt. The few pictures she showed me from home were plastered onto the wall, covered in scotch tape, books and magazines, as well as more VHS tapes littered the tables. And I wondered what her home in Ohio looked like, as she was stealing so much from where she was. And it must be a long habit to be that much of a pack rat. They asked me if I wanted to see the body. She was covered up in the beauty shop, in the building, in a bed, covered with a blanket and bags of ice. I've come this far. Now I had to see. To say goodbye or something. I pulled the blanket back and the stench, oh God, the stench was so bad. It was overwhelming. And my head started to swim. The blanket could not go back past her chest. And I'd become stuck on her bloated body. Her shoulders and arms had become bigger around than 2 of my waists on top of each other and had started to obscure her neck. Even if someone had the money to give her a proper burial, there was no way there could be a viewing unless the undertakers were especially skilled at debloating her. As the moisture she absorbed made her gain a lot, she was around 30 pounds bigger than she was when I last saw her. So it's hard to say how much was bloat and how much was body weight. Her blood had settled, and she was very bruised at the underside of her body, and her ear was dark purple color. She must have not been allowed to shave because she had a full goatee and hair growing at random places on her face. All in all, it was horrible. I'm also a really bad person. I took pictures for my own remembrance. That will never, ever happen to me. I've taken a reminder of what I want to avoid now. We got her things back here and looked through them. We're donating her clothes to Goodwill, though I don't think they'll want them. There was a surprising amount of there, mostly swank magazines and the like. She somehow also got her hands on 3 DVDs. I cannot help but wonder when she was able to watch these, as she had a roommate her whole time there, though I guess the nurses did tell me that her roommates never lasted long, and asked to be transferred as soon as possible as a bed somewhere else was made available. Zero and Chris took the porno and are giving them to random people on the street. Since you know what Zero and Chris are like, there were a lot of water damage magazines like Ladies' Home Journal and Reader's Digest, and we threw those away. I have her Ohio identification card still. Her stuffed animals all have poo on them, and they have been given away. She has a few gift bags in a box, mainly full of 99-cent store crap, all from people whom I've never heard of. I would assume that the families of her roommates all took pity on her, which is sweet. What's left? A few pictures, her ID card, and some small personal effects, which I will gladly send to her family if I can contact them. Where does this leave me now? Well, I still want to get in touch with someone from her family. I don't know how I'll manage it, but if I could get in touch with her stepfather, that would be best. Though I no longer have a working number for him. I've posted to a few places asking for help contacting him. If anyone in the Cincinnati area who can contact me with any info on Charles Han or his son Ben, that would be great, because I need to let him know. Otherwise, thanks anyway. I'm sure there'll be more. We'll see what happens. The 26th of February, 2007. From Grey Fluid.
Good to get closure on this whole legendary saga. Did you finally get in touch with her family? By the way, you're the cutest guy ever.
Shirayoji. You're so sweet for saying so. So, thank you very much for the compliment. As for getting in touch with her family, no, I still haven't. There's this social worker from the state that calls me once in a while to see if I have any new info too. The 1st of December, 2007. Wingless Cherub. Hey, sorry to bug you in the whole story ordeal. I'm sure you're tired of that. I'm just curious if you were ever able to contact her family. It's really been on my mind. No, I haven't. I've tried for a few months and then finally gave up. There's only so much I could put into it before having to stop, you know? Yeah, I understand that. It's just so tragic. Perhaps it's for the better for her family, though. This way they can always wonder if maybe, just maybe, her life improved somewhat.